at least one non-Soroptimist in among our midst. So Penny Williams, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Lovely to see you.
And of course, welcome to our speaker, Hoda Ali. And we are very much looking forward to what Hoda has to say. This event marks our kickoff for our oranging, Orange the World, which we've been doing for, this will be our 5th year to Orange the World. And for those that have either forgotten or never knew, Orange the World runs from the 25th of November to the 10th of December. And it's the UN 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence. And the topic that we're going to cover tonight, of course, is very, very relevant to gender-based violence. Before we get too much into the meat, we always start our meetings with the vision and mission. So Helen, if I could hand over to you to do that for us.
Of course. Soroptimist International's vision of Great Britain and Ireland's vision is women and girls will achieve their individual and collective potential, realise aspirations, and have an equal voice in creating strong, peaceful communities worldwide. And our mission is Soroptimists transform the lives and status of women and girls through education, empowerment, and enabling opportunities.
Thank you, Helen. So, as I said, this event marks the start of our Orange campaign for 2025. And when we were putting plans together, Barbara, who isn't on the call today, and myself both agreed that Hoda would be an absolutely perfect person to kick off for us. We heard Hoda last year in 2024 at the Domestic Abuse Conference, and her passion for her subject and her method of delivery blew us away. And we are absolutely delighted to be able to welcome Hoda to join us tonight and kick off our campaign. Just so that everyone is aware, Hoda has kindly agreed that we can record this session, partly so that Jane will be able to update our website in her usual style, but also a number of our members are not able to be here tonight, and I'm quite sure they would like to catch up with what happened. So thank you for agreeing to that, Hoda. We have also got our AI companion taking notes. That again is just to help for note taking and won't be published in any way. So Hoda, if I could hand over to you, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That was a great introduction, and it's good to see all of you. And I'm sure that with this tonight, we can reach a lot more people. So my name is Hoda Ali. I am many things woman. Okay. So yeah, I am originally from Somaliland, as is known now. And yeah, I'm a nurse. I'm a teacher also, and I'm an activist against all of these things that is happening with women and girls. So yeah, I'm not good at introducing myself, but I just introduce myself as Hoda Ali.
Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, also, I'm the co-founder of the Ventures, where if any of you are going to donate, it would be great that if you can donate to the Ventures. But also, I'm here tonight to do the full rundown of the FGM training that I do with nurses, medical professionals, or teachers, just to give you the heads up of what actually FGM is and the law. So yeah, I'll be having you next 45 minutes.
We're looking forward to hearing that, Hoda. And I think you said you were going to start with a quiz.
Yes. Yes. I can't see our audience. I can't see how many people are here, but
So we've
There's
got
17 of us, including you.
okay. All right. So yeah, we're gonna start with the quiz. Okay, so I think that I don't need answers right now. I just want everybody to think about this, right? So if you think about the question number one, and what is the historic and original of female genital mutilation or cutting, known FGM and FGMC, i.e., where was the first place that you think you might practice this? Think about that. And question number two is how many girls and women worldwide have gone and in FGMC according to the World Health Organization or UNICEF? We got the answers, but just think about it. Question number question number three. What types of FGM are there? If you can think about, is it type 1, is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? It's really important to think about that as well. And there's no wrong or right answer. If we look at then question number 4, what are some of the health risks by FGM or FGMC? So when you see slash C, that is also cutting. So it's female genital mutilation. So in the UK, we have a law. Female genital mutilation is the law we have, but also cutting is a lot of other countries do not practice mutilation or say mutilation will actually use the word cutting. So you might be able to see that as well for communities from here. And keep writing. There's no right answer. And question number 4. What are the health risks caused by FGMC? Question number oh God, it's moving far. Okay, yeah. What are the health benefit? Okay, question number 5. What is the term of FGM used in documents? Question number 6. What are some of the excuses are given when practicing female genital mutilation or cutting? Every country have different things they say. Question number 7. What is the estimated number of girls at risk FGM here in the UK? So when we say in the UK, it's important also to think about Ireland have their own policy. Scotland have their own policy. When we say it's the only policy we're talking about is England and Wales. So that's really important to think about, excluding Ireland and Scotland. Question number 8. What are the legal consequences of performing or assisting FGMC in the UK? Question number 9. What are some signs a child be at risk of FGM? And again, this is a really broader, but it would be nice to hear from your answers. Question number 10. What action can be taken if you suspected a child is at risk of FGMC? Again, this will relate to a lot for teachers. Thank you. Let me see what question number. Oh, okay. Yeah. Is everybody ready? If you're ready, let me know. Again, there's no wrong or right answer, so we can look at the answers together. Does anybody want to say anything before I show you the answers? And I will add something as well. When was FGMC outlawed here in the UK? And again, it's England and Wales. What year do you think female genital mutilation was made a criminal offense here in the UK?
I think it was around 2008, wasn't it?
2008.
Right.
Okay, that's one answer.
I think.
Anyone else?
I thought it was a little more recent than that. So I would say around 2014.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Now, this is really important. So I'm going to say this before we go back to our answers. Female genital mutilation was outlawed here in the UK in 1985. Please make a note. Please write that down. 1985, it was outlawed here in the UK. However, 2003, that was amended. So even a British girl were taken out of the country, the law still stands. Because a lot of people will take the children out of the country, perform FGM, bring them back here, and just tell them to, go in the schools and do what you have to do. So most important thing, that was outlawed 1985, 2003, it protected girls if they were British. However, 2015, it was made mandatory for teachers, any health professionals, social workers to really make sure they record and report if they think a child was at risk of FGM. Also, the same year, we had the protection order. Means if, as a teacher, you're worried about child being taken out of the country, you can use the protection order to stop that family leaving the country. So I can see a hand, like faces. Are you surprised about all of this when it comes to the law? Give me one answer.
I put down 1995. I had no idea, but I thought I'm sure it's earlier than that, but I had no idea how early.
That was 1985, so it was 10 years before you wrote it down.
Yeah.
And I think this is why it's important for us to know about the law before we talk about female genital mutilation is what the law said and what is the whatever country that we are at when is the law has been come into effect. And yeah, 1985 is the main. 2003, it protected girls if they were taken out of the country. And in 2015, we had the protection order and also recording and reporting when it comes to professionals. Any question before we look at the answers?
When was the first prosecution?
Oh, we're gonna come into that. Through the PowerPoints, I will let you know. So please remind me that later. But let's go and look into the answers. So the first answer I asked was, what is the historical FGM, right? And could somebody put, yeah, thank you. Now, it is really, really important for people to realize nobody knows where FGM is originated from. Female genital mutilation is a worldwide issue. It's not the black girl or the brown girl issue. It's a worldwide issue. However, in the historical origin of female genital mutilation and cutting, as you can see on your screen, it was dated back 2,000 years ago. But the first historical writing was in Herodotus, which is a Greek historian who was traveling through Egypt, and he actually witnessed for girls being cut, and he wrote about that. And that was the 5th century BC. You can tell how long it was coming back, right? And again, that was believed in Egypt in pharaonic times. They believe if a girl or woman said they were a lesbian or, along the way, they thought to cut their part of their body will be okay because they will be curing them from not being either a lesbian or bisexual. And if you think about number two, female genital mutilation, when we talk about worldwide, there are over 240 million women alive today who are survivors of FGM, and those are the ones that we know. Over 240 million women and girls. And these are international. These women are from every corner of the world. They're not just in Africa or in Asia. This happens everywhere. The Mayans used to practice FGM. Colombia is one of the highest places in South America practice FGM. So a lot of the times when I was as a nurse hearing this, it was like, oh, it only happens in Africa. But it's important for us to know it doesn't happen only in Africa or Asia. It happens worldwide. Everybody have different excuses of why they think that female genital mutilation happens. If we look at the other question, number 3, does any of you know how many types of FGM is? I mean, you can see here, but do you actually know the types? So there are 4 types as we know now, but there are many different types we don't know as well. So as I share my presentation later, I will explain that to you. But there are 4 types of FGM. If you look at number 4, health risk and by FGM, does anybody know what other health risks are?
One of them must be infection.
What kind of infection?
Well, there must be infections as a result of the actual cutting in the first place.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
And then infections that can arise depending on how the FGM has been carried out and complications during childbirth.
Okay. Yeah, there are many different infections comes to female genital mutilation. And urine infection is one of them.
Yeah.
Thrush, women who having thrush, who have BVs, all those gynecological problems do come depending on what type they had. So it's also really important to know that when we say infections, it's making sure that we understand what kind of infections, like urine infection, perfect infections, kidneys giving out, because these women also have survivors of FGM and they had urine infection all their life. And if you have that, what comes after is your body gives up. So they end up having kidney infections where they later on in life end up in kidney failure. Again, that also connects to FGM. And again, you can ask me all these questions after. I'm just going to go through the answers before I go through the slides. If you look the term FGM, why do you think that we use the term female genital mutilation here in the UK? And again, you can see the answer. Because there's a lot of countries who use circumcision. They can say female circumcision, but there's no such a thing as female circumcision. Yes, if you are a medical professional, you will see male circumcision. And as a nurse, and especially sexual health nurse, I have referred a lot of men who have to be circumcised because of medical problem they had. But we never seen a woman, a female, young and old, to actually go and have circumcision because of medical reasons. Female genital mutilation or cutting means in controlling the woman and the girl's sexuality. That's all it is. But we never had a female who ever been circumcised for medical reasons. And it's really important to know that. Again, if we look at type number 6, excision, there's a lot of excuses that they actually talk about female genital mutilation. Some countries, they will say it's purity to keep the girl pure. Some of them would say virginity, which is that's the main thing. Cleanliness, beauty, family honor, culture, tradition, and controlling women's sexuality. And the last one is the one I agree. Female genital mutilation happened to me and happened to over 200 million women and girls to control their sexuality. That is basically what it is. And I'm not going to talk about this because I talked about number 7. Number 6, again, they are over. This is not the right data. By the way, this is one of the things that really makes me mad because we don't have the right data. There are so many communities and people who practice female genital mutilation, but we still have to follow the data, which is the World Health Organization. And according to the World Health Organization in the UK, it's estimated 65,000 girls age 13 and under are at risk of FGM here in the UK every year. But the data we talk about, there are over 200 million women, girls around the world who are survivors of FGM. So the data is not connecting. If you look at number 8, we also talked about the consequences of performing FGM here in the UK. It's against the law. The law has been made a criminal offense since 1985. It's illegal to help or support or arrange a girl to have FGMC and here in the UK. If you are found guilty, it's 14 years in jail. Number 9, the signs and the risk of FGM. If you are a teacher, I think if you are a teacher, and again, I will share that with my PowerPoint presentation later. If you are a teacher, you might not see, because not every child, FGM is not written in front of our head, but it's the actions of that child. So if you are you're a 3 teacher, that child might have gone away, love sports, she loved to do riding a bike and stuff. But once that child had FGM, they're not allowed to ride a bike or to do BE. So if there's any teachers here, it's a very important to look at. I don't think it's important to look at about a country because that doesn't give you an answer. Because I'm from Somalia and I was cut myself, but everyone after me was never gone through FGM. So it's really important we think about that. And again, number 10, action to take if you suspected a child at risk of FGM. We're going to get back to that because that will be on my PowerPoints. So now we're going to go to the PowerPoint. But do you have any question about this one?
Sarah.
I was just wondering how you mentioned the prison sentence. How many people in this country have ever been prosecuted?
Right, so I'm going to come into that.
Okay.
Yes, so let's start the PowerPoint, but this was just a quiz, and then we're going to talk about that. Is that okay? So who's sharing my slides?
Me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So those of you who know me, my name is Hoda M. Ali. I am a safeguarding consultant. I'm also a nurse, and I'm the co-founder of Diva Ventures. So if we go to the next slide, and again, we can share this with everybody as well. Yeah, again, this slide is from me. Yeah, I don't like reading about myself, but you guys get the legit. I am Hoda Valley and I do this and as a nurse and survivor. And let's go to the next slide, please. And this slide, as you see, these are my sisters, my two sisters. I am the right-hand side one. And yeah, so when I say people ask me, why do I do the work I do as a medical professional and a survivor, is because female genital mutilation took away my childhood. It took away the chance for me to be a mother. So it was really important for me to share my knowledge, but also to make sure that I am actually doing education. I'm big for education, and that is me. So yeah, so I went through the war. So war and FGM took away the chance to be a child, my teenager, but I have found myself. So let's go to the next one.
Can I just see if I can get it to play like properly without all the extra stuff around the outside? I'll just come out of sharing and oh, it won't let me. Okay, I can't. Onto slideshow. Right. Oh. Is this a- Mhm.
It's okay. While you're doing that, also, I want people to understand that female genital mutilation is not something that is new to any culture or any religion. It's things that happen around the world, regardless. It happens in South America. There is, oh, thank you. Also, if anybody's got an Amazon and go to Amazon Prime, there is actually a documentary that talks about the history of FGM, and it's called The Cut FGM Worldwide. And it will be amazing for all of you to actually see and watch. So going back to our presentation, it's really important that self-care is important because what I'm about to share is, it's something that as a human being, you don't want to hear it, but it is very sensitive. So please, if you feel sad or anything, make sure that you do take care of yourself because self-care is important. And again, you can always contact me and we can put you to the right people to speak about it. Can I see the next slide, please? Right, so the original and prevalence of female genital mutilation, as I say with our quiz, the history of FGM is actually not well known about practice and data, but the data goes back to 2000 years ago. The historic reference of FGM can be found in written by the Greek historian who reportedly traveled within Egypt in 5th century BC, and he actually saw girls being practiced in having FGM. So when people say sometimes FGM is from East Africa or is from this, people need to realize female genital mutilation is not African girl issue. It's a worldwide issue. However, because we have that written the written policy from not policy but the written proof from the historic and Greek traveler, Egypt is where he reported it, but we cannot say female genital mutilation is started in Egypt. Also, the foreign, some of them believe female circumcision, because in here in the UK, in the Europe, we call it mutilation. A lot of countries, they actually say is circumcision. So if you think about that, some of the female circumcision was rooted in the pharaonic belief bisexual gods. So if a woman or girl said they were bisexual or anything, they will actually perform female genital mutilation on them to cure them for their sexuality. And again, these are the histories that is there. Now, the one that really makes me sad as a Black woman is the reports from the 15th and the 16th century suggested female slaves were sold in a higher prices if they were sewn up in a way that made them unable to give birth. So a lot of the African countries that who did not practice female genital mutilation, but slavery started, that is why FGM is actually went so much in African country. Does that make sense to everybody, right? Because when slavery started, they said if the woman or the girl is sewn up in a way not to be able to give birth, they will actually sell them higher prices. So one, the woman have become the price. The girl has become the price. But if she was sewn up in a way that was unable for her to give birth, they will sell her in a higher price. Means that they can rape them, they can do whatever they wanted to do, and it will be okay. They thought they couldn't get pregnant. And that is actually, that's in the books, but that's one of the hardest things to actually believe. Because imagine that the slavery has contributed to female genital mutilation. A lot of people do not know that, but it did contribute to that. The last one is that there are over 230 million women and girls who are alive today that who have gone through FGM or the cutting. It's important to say that because on this PowerPoint, when I did that, it was 200. Now it's over 230 million women and girls. So it's changing every single day as we speak. Next slide, please. Now, what is FGM? Let's look at the types. So, female genital mutilation is a procedure that involves or partially or total removal of the female genitalia for non-medical reasons. And I think that people, it's very important to recognize that none of these happen for medical reasons, according to the World Health Organization. Next slide, please. When I say trigger warning, this is where I will be showing you the types of FGM. It's not real people, it's animation. So let's go to the next one, please. Yeah. Can everybody see that? Type 1 is a cut or slit of the clitoris. There is no stitch or anything involved. You can see type 2 here. Type 2, sometimes it is total or partial removal of the clitoris, the labia minora, the labia majora. They pull the skin together and they stitch it halfway, where that woman or girl may be able to pass urine. And if they go for SME tests, the doctors will be able to use a small speculum to do the test. Type 3, as you can see, is a total removal of the clitoris, the labia minora, labia majora. They pull the skin together and they stitch it all the way down until they leave a little hole that is no bigger than matchstick. And when I say matchstick, it's like the tip of the pin here, right? They expected the woman, that girl, to pass urine, to have her period when she gets older, and also when she gets married, her husband forced himself to open her because, again, it's to prove that she is virgin. If you see the last one, type 4, there's a lot of countries in the world where they just stretch the labia. They don't cut anything. They just stretch the labia, and they stretch from a baby, 40-day-old, all the way to 5 years old. Because in that country, it could be in Africa or South America. Actually, a lot of it is South America. They believe having longer labia is beautiful. And again, it's about sexuality and how beautiful that you look. But one of the most important thing here in the UK is that we have Harley Street. I don't know how many of you know about Harley Street and vagina designer. Vagina designer in the UK also is part of type 4 FGM because it's non-medical reasons where women, their labia is being trimmed and cut and stitched for non-medical reasons other than purely for cosmetics. So it's really important also to know that. Can we look at the next slide, please? When we say female genital mutilation, the cutters, the people who perform this, there are two types. One is the medical doctors and the non-medical. Majority of it is the non-medical. There's no sterile equipment. There's no anesthetic. There's nothing to actually say infection control at all. They will bring that girl, or many of them, they will perform FGM and they will tell them tomorrow is you are a big girl now. You're done. I'm going to go through this, then I'm going to talk to you my own story. Can we see the next slide, please?
There was a question from Patsy in the chat, Hoda, which is really how can they get pregnant when the hole's that tiny?
Right. So again, there are many women here, even in the UK, that we see in a maternity. It only takes the sperm to swim through that little hole and impregnate that woman. So it is possible, and it happened to millions of women. It's not hard.
Can I just comment, Jane?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make, that although they've been sewn up and then they could, you said that they were raped, then they could get pregnant, because the other issue you were saying about giving birth, that because they can't give birth, their slave owners will charge more money for them. But that would leave that girl at risk, wouldn't it? I'm imagining.
Absolutely, because if we're talking about the slavery, they thought these women, these girls, if they were stitching up in a certain way, they can rape them and do whatever, and they wouldn't get pregnant, but they were, because it only takes that sperm to swim through and find the egg. I might not be explaining it properly, but literally what it is.
But then when they get pregnant and they're sewn up and go into labor, I guess they would have to be cut again to open up the more space for the baby to be born.
Absolutely. But that's if you're lucky enough to get access to the doctors, right?
Right.
And this is why I always say to people that we are so lucky to have the NHS, because the NHS, you can be checked and seen through. But in reality is that there are some women who actually give birth with that little hole and just push the baby out. There is also what is the fistula. Fistula is actually come from a lot of women who had FGM. They didn't have medical help, so they pushed the baby. And then, does everybody know what fistula is? Because fistula is like cutting through the opening of the vagina to the rectum. That little skin cuts in between. So unless they have a medical help, it does happen, and that's where we have many over 100,000, more than 100,000 women who actually have fistula.
So would that be that they have feces coming out then?
Yeah.
Vagina?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because that's what fistula is. So fistula, the little thin skin between the opening of the vagina and the rectum is cut. So now they are incontinent, one, and also their feces. So they can't control their feces, but also they can't control their urine. So a lot of, actually, it's a one part of Africa, one country in Africa, the women, when they have that, they are disowned as well. Because now they're incontinent, they can't hold their feces, they can't hold their urine. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Should we go to the next slide? Okay. Now, this is really important because terminology is very important, especially when we are speaking English and we're using the word English. So, female genital mutilation, as you can see, female genital, which is known as FGM, it describes the gravity and the harm of the act. It is advocacy term used in a legal document. So you might actually talk to a parent if you're a teacher or a medical professional or anybody. You might talk to them in their own way, but the legal term is FGM, and that's what the law says. Also, there's a lot of countries, they don't use female genital mutilation. They use cutting because that's what they know as their language. Cutting. Also, there's a circumcision as well, which is very, very important to talk about circumcision. So I'm from Somalia and it's called FGM, it's called gudni. If I translate gudni to English, it's circumcision. But what is circumcision? When you talk about circumcision, it makes a light of what actually it is. As we said, it's the gravity of the harm that what FGM is. So it's not about the language that is spoken, it's about knowing what actually the effects that female genital mutilation brings and is right now. And it's really important. Also, so when we talk about cutting, in America, they don't use mutilation. The law they have in America is female genital cutting. And there's a lot of other countries also use that. And also you will hear the word sunnah. Does anybody know what the word sunnah means? So the word sunnah is again, it is an Islamic word. Sunnah is for us, like let's say I wanted to pray and I want to pray and I want to speak. It's about me following Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But a lot of people will use the word sunnah because they want to make female genital mutilation natural. And it's okay. But can I ask you, ladies, is there any holy book in anywhere in the world that actually advocates for female genital mutilation? None, absolutely none. So this is why you will see different names because people wanted to make it more normal and it's okay. But it had no place in any religion or anywhere. Female genital mutilation is an abuse. It is to control the woman and girl sexuality, and it had no place in our world. Next slide, please. So these are some of the health risks. The health risk, it really, really varies from every woman. Every single woman who had FGM will have a different effects of it. However, there's the constant pain, difficult having intercourse, and repeated urine infection, i.e. thrush, urine infection, BV, and also that leads to infertility. Bleeding, where women can have actually should be bleeding, but then she just keep on bleeding. It's not even a stop, right? Like if it starts semitase, she'll bleed. If it is intercourse, she'll bleed. If it is her period, she bleed extra and extra. And these, again, as a nurse and as a survivor, I cannot say it enough that people don't understand the effect female genital mutilation have on women's body. Even when you give birth, I have my sisters that I talk to that will have children, but they still go through these symptoms. And it's important people to realize the painful that it brings and also the long-term complications it brings, which is I'm going to share a little bit now. And bleeding or peeing, again, incontinence, that is another thing that just sneezing or coughing on that women do end up being incontinent. The depression flashback, that's something you will see if there's anybody who's watching now who's working maternity or a nurse who will work with this woman, they will understand that there's a lot of medical problems comes with it. The flashback, like women, when they're being examined, literally they will just pass out. They will pass out, which is crazy and it's horrible. And if we look at the next one, labor and childbirth, there are women who get birth, who are pregnant, like somebody asked me, they will get pregnant with type 3 FGM, and the only option they have is actually to have cesarean. And that's one of the things that is important to do this medical, to talk about the medical reasons so we can train our medical professionals. Next slide, please. Now, could somebody give me a reason why this actually FGM happens? Because just tell me, what is it? Why do they do what they do?
Tradition?
One of them, yes.
Control.
Yeah. Anything else?
Signs of purity.
Yeah. So who say control? That's literally what it means. Female genital mutilation happened to these little girls to prove they are virgin to their husbands. That's all it is. As much as it's crazy, the last one is the one I will always agree with. Female genital mutilation happened to me and happened to millions of women to control our sexuality, to prove our future husband we are virgin. Next slide, please. Okay. So now this slide is going to show you the work I do in schools and how I teach with young people. But if I go back to the previous slide, is that I am a survivor of female genital mutilation. I went through when I was the age of 7 with my young sister who was 6. It was something that we did in our country. Nobody said it was wrong. It was something I was excited. I really was very excited to have it done because I thought it happened to every single woman around the world. I didn't think that something happens to certain people and stuff. I was just excited because it makes you a woman. And yeah, I survived that initial in FGM. But when I turned at the age of 11, because I went through when I was 17, when I have to have my period was accumulating inside. It had nowhere to come out. And I remember this time we were a place called Mogadishu, and where my father is from, and the war started. There was no hospitals open. There was nobody to help me. And my dad find this hospital it's called the Source Hospital. It was actually run by Italian doctors in Mogadishu. And I remember he took me there and they were like, oh, your daughter's got a cyst. We need to operate her right now because we don't know if the cyst is getting bigger. But they were like, oh, we're going to keep her 48 hours and see if the cyst is getting bigger. And when they did the ultrasound and they see it, they were like, oh, the cyst is getting bigger, so we need to operate her. It's only when they took me to the theater and they opened me abdominally, they realized I didn't have no cyst. It was actually my period that was accumulating inside and it had nowhere to come out. I was 11 years old. So they kept me in the hospital and keeping me in the hospital. They're like, okay, we're going to wait for her next cycle. And they waited another cycle, and again, my period won't come out. But at this time, also the same time, the hospital start getting bombed, so we have to leave. And I remember as a little girl, just about to turn 12 years old, running through this hospital, this field, where my dad find an airplane to take me out of Mogadishu because of the civil war. And I was very lucky girl. For those people who know me, I always say that I'm the luckiest girl alive. And I remember I literally just got into that plane, get into Djibouti, where my mom and my siblings were, and they took me straight from from the airport to the hospital. And I had the same doctors who came to see me. And they were like, okay, we don't know. We're going to operate you again if you don't have your period. And I remember they just keep on operating me and waiting next cycle. I want every single woman who's watching this to know, if you never had period, how do you know what your next cycle is? Because that's where I was. Like, they were telling me, I have to wait for this cycle. I have to wait for my period. I have to wait for this. But I didn't know what it was, right? And from there, again, they operated me again and again, but I couldn't have my period. So that's when they say to my dad, you know what? We have a better equipment in Italy. We're gonna send your daughter to to Milan, to have a medical professional done, just to see what's going on. And I remember me and my father at the age of 14 years old, I left my country, even though there was a civil war that was happening, didn't know what to do. But yeah, so I came to Italy with my dad. And again, for the second time in my life, I went straight from the airport to the hospital. They operated me there. They keep saying, wait for your next cycle. And I remember the first time I had my period naturally, I was 17 years old. The first time I literally saw this period, I was 17. And I thought, is this what they're talking about? You know? Because it's hard when you're a child and you're going through a civil war. It's really hard for you to understand what everybody's talking about. But again, that makes me the woman I am. So I thought I'm always going to be a nurse. I want to be trained to be a nurse. I want to do this. So yeah, at the hospital, at the age of 17, I had my period at first time. But also at the same time, we became refugees. So I couldn't go back to my mom, to my sisters, to my brothers. So we basically became refugees. So I ended up in a refugee camp in Holland. My sister sponsored me to the UK, and I arrived in the UK my 2 months my 21st birthday. And I remember coming here and saying, oh my God, I'm going to learn English and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And now I met also my husband now. And it was hard for me to explain what's happened to me. It wasn't like it just doesn't come everybody to speak about it. But yeah, so we got married and we couldn't get pregnant. So I want you to know that I've been in hospital from the age of 11 to 17 just to get my period from three different three different countries, two different continents. So Mogadishu, Djibouti, and Milan. And then I arrived in London, and now the doctor said, "Oh, well, you're married now. You're not getting pregnant. We're gonna give you IVF." At first, I was like, "I don't want to do IVF. I'll wait." Right? But we wasn't getting pregnant, so we went for IVF, and I got pregnant with my first cycle. Because I want you to realize adhesions are the scars we have. Every operation women have in the abdominal to create scarring, and that scars has built and built and built up over the years. So when I have my IVF, no doctor wanted to operate me. They're just like, oh, you can have the IVF. And I got pregnant with the first cycle, and I miscarried the day before my 6 week scan. And from there, we also had 5 embryos left. And I was like, okay, so I miscarried, it's okay. I'm gonna have the other embryos that was frozen. And I remember that day, as a nurse also, it takes a lot to take time out from the doctors and stuff. And I booked my day and we went there. And I remember when I got to the hospital, they say none of your embryos survived. So we had 5 embryos, and they froze it at a different time, and none of the embryos survived. So I'm like, okay, now what's my option? And they're like, well, your option is you have a surrogate mother. That's your option, or you adopt. And I remember looking at him, and he looked at me, and I remember I couldn't even speak because he was like, my wife is not going to have a child we don't have yet. And that is how everything for me at that moment, because I needed a moment to reflect and to think about. But yeah, female genital mutilation has taken away my chance to be a mother, taken away my chance to be a child, to even play in my childhood. So yeah, so that is for me how I have now developed to do this work that we're about to talk about. So as a nurse, I make sure I give back. And now as a teacher, because I left nursing about 8 years ago, I have been teaching in primary school children about my body, my rules, which is working with the NSPCC. So not, you don't have to be scared about the children, but it's about them knowing how to protect themselves, not just FGM, but how to make sure there is nobody is going to bother them or touch them or do anything that they don't want to do to their body. So if you look at this slide in front of me, is what we teach our children. Our children are aware of understanding the pants rule. Let me just put this down, right? And so our children are aware of using my body, my rules, which is the NSPCC. So my body belongs to me. It does not belong to anybody else. If I don't want you to give me a hug, if I don't want you to give me a touch, that should be respected. That is the main thing that we do. Next slide, please. Again, do you all agree that female genital mutilation is a child abuse, even though if the parent do not think it's a child abuse? Because me going through female genital mutilation, my mother didn't do that to abuse me. My mother was a survivor. My grandmother was a survivor. All the women before me was a survivors. But right here in 2025, parents do understand. So if a parent takes their child out of the country, it still stands. So do you believe female genital mutilation is an abuse?
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nobody have the right to touch any child, let alone to remove part of their body. Now let's look at the next slide, please. Okay, do you all agree that female genital mutilation or cutting is a physical neglect, sexual or emotional abuse? Is it all or one?
It's all of those.
All of
I
them.
agree. It's all of them.
Absolutely. All of them. All of them. No one, regardless of who we are, have the right to be touching his child's private part, to remove it, let alone to remove anything. So one is physical because the child is being held down. It's a neglect because where's our people? Where's the adults? Where are the people who's supposed to speak for us? From my perspective, I could say my mother was a survivor. My grandmother was a survivor. They didn't know anything better, but we know better today. So if there's a parent who's letting their child to go through FGM and they're not saying anything, that is a neglect. It is a sexual abuse because who give us a right to be touching child's privates? No one should be. And it's an emotional because you know what? It lives with you for the rest of your life, the same way that I live with it every day. Next slide, please. Now, this is one of the things in the UK because we really need to go back and think about what the law says. If you think about this, and again, we all have to use evidence-based. The same way as a nurse, I will use evidence-based. So here it's an estimated 65,000 girls at the age of 13 and under are at risk of FGM every year here in the UK. But also it says there are 156,000 girls who are survivors of FGM in the UK. So the data that we are using is really not right. We're not doing it by justice and by finding out the reality. Again, here, the communities that practice FGM, including Kenya, Somalia, Sudanese, Sierra Leone, Egypt, Nigeria, Eritrea, Yemen, Afghanistan, Kurdish, Indonesia, Malaysia. Indonesia and Malaysia have the highest number that came through last year. 3 years ago. There were 70 million women and girls came forward from Southeast Asia, including Malaysia and Indonesia. Also, there is a part of in Russia that came through. The Russian girls, they have blonde hair and blue eyes, but they go through FGM. In India, the Bahara women who live between Pakistan and India also have experienced female genital mutilation. I work in Allen Hospital for many, many years. I never knew that. So this is why it's really important also to open your ears and open your mind and to learn when it comes to female genital mutilation or cutting, because it's a worldwide issue. And I keep saying it's not an African issue. It is a worldwide issue. You know, the Mayans used to practice FGM. Mayans, right? But the excuse is different, but it's the same. That's why anybody who's got Amazon, go and watch that movie, the documentary called The Cut FGM Worldwide. You will literally see how it's also connected to the UK in the Victorian times. Because those of you who know, there was something called chastity belt in the UK. Chastity belt is a form of FGM because it was controlled to women's sexuality. The only thing they didn't do is to cut anything, but they will put the belt and the key, the husband will take it away. Next slide, please. And also, if you have any questions, please stop me. Okay, so again, the FGMC and the law. Female genital mutilation is against the law and it's been a criminal offense since 1985. It's made illegal to help or support or arrange for FGMC to be performed on a girl or a woman. It's also illegal to take a girl out of the UK to carry out FGM. So this is if anybody is taking the girl out of the country or practicing or doing that FGM, the law still stands the same. And that is 14 years in jail if you have found guilty. Now, somebody asked me, how many do we have? Does anybody know how many criminal offense that we had on FGM in this country? And I say England and Wales, remember? We're not talking about Scotland or Ireland.
It's about 3 now, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So the first one was in, oh, should I say it or somebody else want to say something?
No, you can say it.
So the first one was 2019. It was a little girl at the age of 3, and she was cut at home in the kitchen sink. That little girl was cut in the kitchen sink. However, they bring the cutter and they perform FGM on that girl. However, they couldn't stop her bleeding, so they took her to the hospital, where the doctors realized this child had type 3 FGM, but she was bleeding profusely, like nobody can stop. When they ask the parents, they're like, oh, she fell down the stairs. I want you to pay attention of when we're talking about abuse or child abuse, regardless of what form it comes, there's always an excuse. So this little girl, they said, oh, she fell down the stairs. This was in East London. When the doctors look at this girl, a 3-year-old girl, she was stitched all the way down. You know when I was showing you type 3? They did it on type 3. And that was that. Now that case has went to court. Who do you think that got caught? Or who do you think was found guilty? Mom and dad, both of them went there together.
The mother.
The mother.
I know. Is that fair?
No.
Because at the end of the day, husband and wife, when they have their children, they make decisions together. That father knew that baby girl was going to have FGM. But guess what? When he went to court, he still was there when it went to the hospital. But when he went to court, he literally disowned his wife and his rest of his children. That was in March 2019. I remember that case because I was in Senegal doing something in another work. The last two we had, it was 2013. We had two. One of them was a professor from Nottingham University that we trust our children to be taking care of these people as a professor, teach them, and he performed FGM on his own girls. He didn't do it himself. He traveled to Egypt and he caught them there. He was found guilty. His court case is still going. The other one now, do you all remember when I said 2015, it was made mandatory to record and report, right? But also 2003, even if the girl was taken out of the country, the law still stands. It was a 16-year-old girl who was actually used the 2003 Act because she was cut at the age of 4. She was taken out of this country. She had FGM somewhere else. She's a British girl, and she never said anything until she was 16. And I want you to realize this. The doctors never realized the child was cut. The school, when she went to primary school, nobody said, why don't you want to take part of BE? Why do you go to the toilet so long? Why, when you're sitting down on the floor, why is all of this? Nobody spoke for that child. But at the age of 16, she's the one went and reported her own mom. And that is also in Harrow in London, one of the schools I have been doing training all of this time. Those are the 3 persecution we have, and it's really important to know. I don't think it's enough, but that's what we have at the moment. And let's keep going. Let's go to the next slides. Again, this is another slide I really wanted to put here. So there are over 230 million women and girls who are alive today, but female genital mutilation is the 4th leading cause of death in Africa. This is about HIV and AIDS, measles, meningitis. But we can control this. When we talk about malaria, you can't control, like my good friend and my mentor always said, you can't control when a children have or somebody have malaria, but we can control FGM. And FGM is the 4th killing, the leading cause of death in Africa alone. People don't understand that. Can we see the next slide, please? Right. If you look at the cause, have a look at that. The amount of the sector is required to end a female genital mutilation or any form against violence women and girls It is $2.75 billion. And the sector only receives 300 million. How is that even? And they want female genital mutilation to end in 2030. So this is again something that I just put there for you, for your own to look up, because it's not reality. It's not reality. We need the amount of 2.75 billion, and we only receiving 300 million. And female genital mutilation should end by 2030. It's just not real. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but of course you will have these. These are what we look at in primary school with the children. So again, if it's suspected a child might have FGM, and again, it's really important for me to say there are a lot of mothers, especially in my country and my people, that my own family, we are me and my younger sister are the last one to ever go through FGM. But there is a lot of people. So if you are a teacher, it's not like you don't have to look into it to say, oh, the child's mother is being cut or her sibling is being cut. So that doesn't mean the child is going to be cut as well. It's just having information and connection and education with the parent to find out. Because I am a survivor. I'm part of this data. So if anybody, if I had I had children or me and my younger sister, they will look at us in this data and say, oh, because you had FGM, that means your child is going to have FGM as well. No, no, it doesn't mean like that. It's about where is to look at this child. How are they feeling? Can they do BE if they in the classroom? Can they ride the bike? What did they actually say to you? It's the most important thing. We can listen and read about the books, what they said, but it's important to pay attention and just to have a proper conversation about that. I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but if you have a question, please do ask me, especially if you're a teacher. Again, this is spotting the signs, and afterward, again, difficult walking or sitting. Of course, if a child had a female genital mutilation, that child cannot sit down or properly, especially on the floor when we cross our legs and do that. Again, that could be normal, right? It's about looking what we're really looking at. If you are now need an action, if you're a teacher or you work in a medical setting, the most important thing is to speak to your safeguarding officer and the mandatory reporting. So in schools, it's a mandatory reporting. If you are worried a child might have FGM or going through FGM, you use the 101 number. And ICRES is healing. I know that every borough of the UK have their own as well. But it's, oh, sorry guys. It's about writing down the police reference. So if you're worried about a child, you will call 101 number, which is non-emergency number. They will give you a reference number, and then you have to make sure you speak to your safeguarding lead. If you are in hospital, you will have safeguarding lead. If you are a teacher or community leader, you also have your safeguarding lead. Again, the reminder is your responsibility as a professional to sustain what you have learned, and to mention that safeguarding lead taking it forward. So it's really, really important for you to take forward and to learn what we learned today. And if you're not sure, please reach out to me, reach out to your supervisor, reach out to your manager, and let's just see do we need to take an action for this child, or do we need to talk to the family a little bit more? It's really important also not to ostracize families and people. We must also provide a sensitive and non-judgmental care. I thank you all so much for listening, and now I'm open to questions. Again, this is me in schools. As you can see this picture, there's pictures of me doing and safeguarding in the UK schools, because I do teach year 3 to 6. about safeguarding and NSPCC. So we do that. And also I was able to and had the privilege to go to Africa. And those posters that you could see are my children year 3 to 6 who actually did a poster of how they can end female genital mutilation here in the UK. And you can see all the ideas that came, but it comes down to my body, my rules. My body belongs to me. It does not belong to anybody else. So thank you so much. And any questions?
Christiana, I can see you've got a question. You've got your hand up.
Yes, yes. Hoda, thank you so much for this presentation. I thought nothing, I'm tough and old and being sort of, I thought I knew all about abuse and able to support and share in my professional capacity. I'm retired now. This is one of the talks I found very difficult. Very difficult because it's happening to a child, a helpless child. And I'm looking at the legal system trying to do its bit, but it's very short. Survivors, like you said, your parents and your grandparents are survivors.
Yeah.
But what is happening is they are, oh, yes, if it's still going on, they are part of allowing this to happen and go through generational abuse.
Yeah.
The courts are not looking at it as joint enterprise, and that is, I'm very concerned about that. And all this is part of abuse, more abuse on women.
Yeah.
And it's being passed down the generation. What can we as women, or those of us who are trying to raise the flag about abuse to girls and women, how are we going to influence the courts to look at it differently? How are we going to work with women to realize coercion in their relationships for them to go forward before their children start being abused? I found this very painful to take. Yeah.
I can feel the pain. I
Yeah.
can feel the pain through your face and through your voice.
Yeah.
I think it starts with home.
Mm.
I think we need to empower our young girls
Mm.
and also our young boys. We need to talk about reality and what is it to be a woman? You already are born a woman, right? That is all it is. I think that we need to empower the young generation to make sure that abuse is not okay.
Mm.
Including FGM, because when I say abuse, we're talking about, I know tonight we're talking about female genital mutilation, but if you think about female genital mutilation, all these other abuses are all connected.
Mm.
So I think the one thing I could say is that we need to teach our young generation coming up, boys and girls, to be respectful, to be if it's a boy, to be respectful woman's body, and if it's a girl, to know their body and the way they are made is just perfect for them. I know we're talking about something that is centuries and centuries years old, but I also believe it's starting from home and the beginning and empowering our children to go out into this world to really feel much like want to be equipped And secondly, to make a difference. It might not happen to them, but what if it's happening to their friend? They should be able to speak to them. So I think we do have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I do believe we need to start from our own home and our own community.
Thank you.
So that plays into a question that's on the chat. Is there a will to change in the communities involved, given the concept of purity and honor is so important to them?
Oh my God, we never can give up will. Like we have to, if we have no will or willness, like we have nothing. Of course, of course. Education, I think when I left nursing, education became a big deal for me because I realized being educated and educating people about the harmful effects of all these things we're talking about is really important. So yes, there's always hope. There's always, but you know where the hope starts? It starts with you. It starts with you. It's using your voice. It's about you saying, this is not right. This is not enough. When we talk about female genital mutilation, I remember the first time me and my best friend talked about this. This was what, like 13, 15 years ago. And people didn't know what we when we talk about FGM and what we were saying. But we were like, listen, you don't know? We are the living proof, which is why people know me as a survivor, because it was like for me to prove to a lot of these things that is happening. It's like I have to say I went through this, right? So there is a hope, there is a will, but if we don't come together, we don't try to actually make that different, and we just say, if we say it's someone else's problem, nothing's gonna happen. But if we come together and we say, listen, we know this, and especially now, there's so much knowledge out there and work for you to learn about FGM or any form against women and girls, then in that way we can. But there is a lot more help and a lot more will. Please don't give up. Whoever that asked that question, don't give up.
Thank you. There is another question in the chat. Given what you said about both yourself and your sister undergoing FGM, how is your sister?
Thank you for whoever asked that question. And it's really important because a lot of the time my sister doesn't like to talk about this. I talked about her, so people who know her will know. I can't have FGM. I can't have children myself. Me and my sister were cut at the same time. I cannot have my own child, but my sister's got 5 children. Beautiful, 3 girls and 2 boys. Will never ever know what FGM is or what it means. However, if we talk about a medical examination, i.e., like let's say Smith test, my sister will never go to the doctors. I have to drag her, right? So she's got the psychological effects of it, but I have the medical effects of it because it denied me to be a mother. It denied me to have my teenage time. So it's kind of crazy and it's mixed. But yeah, my sister is doing well. But however, when it comes to submit tests, I have to drag her out the house.
Thank you. There is another question in the chat. If education is the way forward, wondering if you've met any family who have actually shown regret for the action they took on their girls.
Yeah. So last 7 years, I work in primary schools. I work with the parents because I never teach children about anything before doing parent workshop. And I have met 2 families that always have a special place in my heart. That one, they were really they thought this was application, right? It was like application for them to do this and that, and then the other side is being educated. So they were like in the middle. So it was great. So yeah, there was many girls who've been saved of my talks and the work I did in primary school. But also it was amazing for me to educate the parents because that goes a long way. That will trickle down to different generations. And again, like I said, I don't talk about culture or religion when it comes to FGM. And I talk about the medical complications, i.e., what I went through as myself, but also being a medical professional. So yeah, it's knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. It's been amazing.
So that's working with communities in the UK.
Working with the communities in the UK, working especially in schools, because working with the parents, making them understand, because this is not something, because remember, like when I woke up, I didn't think that FGM was something wrong. I never thought it was wrong until I realized it was wrong. So some parents are like that, but knowledge is power. It's about giving a safe space to talk about this, not like finger pointing to anybody, but just talking about like why are we doing this and what is the reason behind it? Because if we think about the reason behind FGM is to control women and girls' sexuality, to prove to their future husband they never had sex with anybody else. We don't have to do that. That's not, our children deserve the best. They deserve way better than what we do. So yeah.
Great. We are running out of time. So it's now my chance to say a huge thank you, Hoda, for coming and talking to us. I don't think there's a person on this call who hasn't learned at least one thing. And even me, who's heard your presentation before, I feel that I have learned stuff too tonight. And I can't think of a better way of kicking off our Orange the World campaign for 2025. So, ladies, can I ask you to thank Hoda in the usual way with a round of applause? Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. And I'm part of you now. If there's any question or anything you ever need, you have my number, you have my email, let me know. And I'm rooting for you as well. And also, it's part of the 16 Days of Activism in November. So thank you so much ladies for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to some brief club business.
Okay.
Anyone who is not a member of our club is perfectly welcome to stay, but anyone who needs to get away, then please do feel free.
Thank you. I'm gonna leave quick now.
Yes,
but please.
I know it's been a long day for you. You've already told us that. So go and enjoy the rest of your evening with our thanks ringing in your ears.
Thank you, ladies. You take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, so can I just check if there is any club business that we need to cover off? I haven't been made aware of any.
Yeah, we did talk about it at the planning meeting.
I thought there were a couple of things. I can't remember what though.
Well, you're Denise, you're going to run through what's coming up with oranging.
Yes, so team, we've got our oranging kicks off in earnest on the actually on the 24th. For anyone that's free to join us at the Odyssey Cinema, who are going to be lighting up orange for some pictures that will, of course, get us into the press with Jane's hard work. Do feel free to come along to that.
Is that 6:30, Janet?
6:15, we've said.
6:15.
What everyone said, yeah.
Okay, 6:15.
6:15.
Then we have the St Albans event on the first real day of the 16 days, the 25th, at the Civic Centre. I'm not going to run through all the times and all the rest of it because Jane sent it all out in detail in emails. Please do look, do sign up for those things that you can assist with. Most important for the Civic Centre, though, is that you do need to register on Eventbrite because they need to know the names of everyone that will be present in the Civic Centre. Following on from that, some of us are going to support SI Hertford at City at Shire Hall,
County Hall.
County Hall. Thank you.
County Hall is what you're trying
to light that up for the last time, because you will be aware that Herts County Council are moving out of that building. So we are going to support Hertford. If anyone is free on the 26th, they are welcome to join us. Again, the details are in the mails that
now looks like it's 5 o'clock, from 5 o'clock, whereas previously we thought it was from 4 o'clock, but that's from 5 o'clock.
Okay, and then on
are you still all right for that, Janet? Because I think I said I would Janet Tansley. I think I was going to give you a link. Yeah.
I think it should be.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything on in the evening. So
okay.
Fine.
Thank you.
Cool. And then on the 27th is Orange Harpenden taking place at the Eric Morecambe Centre. This should be an interesting experiment in an interactive event where we're hoping to get our attendees to think about how they can help victims of abuse, how they can help to recognise abuse, how they can help perpetrators to no longer abuse. So again, we're looking for people to join us to lead sessions, in other words, to sit round tables and join in the discussions, make sure we keep things moving. Again, all the details with times and so on are coming out in multiple emails. I'm not going to repeat those now, but I do hope that there is something for everyone, something that everyone can join in with and feel that they are contributing to. And we, the Peace Team, would love to see you at one or more of those events. I will just go on then to mention the carol singing the following week. For those that are of a singing disposition or a tin shaking disposition, come along to that and let's get our voices heard. We all wear orange, have a great time, and tease pennies out of the passers-by. We will have electronic devices if they don't carry cash anymore.
And we'll go to the pub afterwards.
And we'll go to the pub and we'll go for dinner and we'll have a very sociable evening. And although gender-based violence is not a happy subject, wearing orange to try and make it better is a happy subject. So we can go with clear consciences to the pub and enjoy ourselves.
Well done.
I need to check in about the venues and things with Steve. Okay, we'll get back to people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
Jane, have I missed anything?
Yeah, Helen and I were going to report back on. I was going to report back quickly on the region meeting that we had. I will once it's because I'm responsible for writing up the region's website as well. So once that's written up, then that should prove to be a good report from the meeting. But it was excellent, and we had internal Soroptimist speakers who were so professional. It was fabulous. We had Kathy Cottridge, who's a past Sigby president, and she's running the campaign to eliminate cervical cancer. So this is, and we're going to get actions that we can take on that, which is about primarily the take up of the HPV vaccines for girls and boys, which needs to be pushed to eliminate it in this country. But it's a worldwide campaign. It's coming from Soroptimist International, and I've got her slides, and they'll get put on the website. But it's we can eliminate it. You know, it's the way that when you see the statistics of what happens when girls have and boys have the HPV vaccine as teenagers, it disappears. And it's that simple. And then we also had a speaker from High Wycombe, Sue Granshaw, who is community champion for Alzheimer's Research UK. and her presentation was mind-blowing, the work that needs to be done on Alzheimer's and the symptoms and everything. So it was big on health, which is interesting because then it was playing into our new regional president, Rita. Her theme for the next 2 years is good health and well-being, the right of everyone. So that's what the theme for the forthcoming region events over the next 2 years will be. I mean, there may well be other topics that come in there, but it's Rita Beaumont, who's going to be who is now the regional president. Rita has a health background. Many of us who know Rita will know that. So that's really important. And so over to Helen.
Thank you, Jane. So Jane and Amita and I went to the Federation Conference in Birmingham the weekend of the 31st of October to the 2nd of November. We had a wonderful time and came back incredibly inspired, as we always do. Thursday was the opening ceremony with the wonderful flag presentations from the 18 member nations. There was a big cheer for the Jamaican flag in support of sisters who've obviously been seriously affected by the devastating hurricane. And there was an announcement that funds had been sent from the SIGB Emergency Relief Fund to Jamaica, or were going to be. They were just trying to work out which route to send the funds. And there was also a big cheer for the newest SIGB nation of St. Lucia. We now have a club in St. Lucia. Friday was being inspired by 3 amazing speakers who were tackling the theme of the conference, which was awareness, advocacy, and action. Started out by a fabulous lady called Susie Imber, who's a dazzling British space physicist who scales unconquered mountain peaks in her spare time. And she funds and runs a program to encourage girls into STEM, so into science, technology, engineering, and medicine. And I mean, we were just left wowed by her. The next one was lovely Alison Hitchcock, who's the joint founder of a charity called From Me to You, who told us wonderful stories about the impact of the anonymous letters the charity encourages people to write to cancer sufferers, helping them reduce their isolation and bring some normality into their lives. So Alison challenged everyone at the conference to take a notelet. There were a whole supply of them on a table at the back, and to write a letter to a woman going through cancer, which the charity would enable. It's obviously a charity that somebody in Surrey Hills, I think, must have been involved in, and it was a fantastic opportunity. And perhaps we might talk a bit more about that at another time. And the last of the 3 speakers was Shazia Chowdhury, who's a professor and expert on European family and human rights law, who described the results of her important research into the lived experience of women in the criminal justice system, women who suffered domestic abuse. Her research compared 5 different European countries, and there were some interesting results out of it. The information from France was particularly shocking, but there were some good pointers from her research into areas where improvement is desperately needed across the board. So that was Friday. Saturday was a day of workshops, 26 in total, which were actually short presentations on a variety of topics, and each of us had a choice of 4. We could choose 4 from the 26 available. My highlight was being blown away by the fabulous advocacy being done by Soroptimist volunteers at the UN, where the name Soroptimist is very well known and highly respected. That was fantastic. And Sunday morning was the roundup of programme actions. So we had the Best Practice Awards, which is always a very inspiring. And I'm not going to tell you in detail because we can probably tell you a bit more about that at our January meeting when we've got a bit more time. But we also heard from Lindsay, our programme director, about the continuing work on gender impact assessments and the railway safety survey, among other things. We then had a fairly straightforward AGM, and then the final thing, which is a change of insignia. So we had a review of her year from the outgoing President, Ruth Healey, who was delighted to be able to report that though our membership numbers are still going down, they are not going down at the frightening rate that they were before. So the decrease has slowed, and a lot of that slowed dramatically. And a lot of that, at least some of that, is due to the fact that retention levels have now are now much more stable than they were. We are obviously getting new members, but we were losing existing ones at a frightening rate, and that has sorted itself out. So that's really good news. So incoming President Gilly O'Rourke took over, taking the chain from Ruth, and was keen to say that we're an organisation of members where every member is as important as the next. She finished her inspiring speech with these words: "Throughout history, women like our Soroptimists have fought against the odds, rising to prominence in science, politics, literature, business, and activism. They have refused to be silenced, proving time and again that gender is not a limitation, but a source of power. So let us continue to celebrate, support, and champion women today and every day. And I'm very proud to be working with members to progress all of the amazing work they do in support of women and girls." Sorry, I don't know. As Jane, oh, sorry. I'm not sure whether I can carry on. I think my voice has just gone. As Jane said, Rita Beaumont has taken over as our regional president. And she took the chain from Hertford's Kate Bellanis, who is now our SIGB president-elect. So our region now has 2 members on the board, Kate and Christine Corliss, and in 2 years' time, Kate will become our federation president, so watch this space. It was great, and it'll be well worth joining in again next year. So put the 30th and 31st of October 2026 in your diaries, and think about coming to Cardiff with those of us who are already thinking about going.
Yeah, it's Cardiff. Yeah. It was a great conference. It was really good.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you, Jane. I am very conscious that we've overrun by quite a bit, and
no, I don't think
have to go on to another call. So
I don't think we overran. I think our lovely Hoda.
Yes, I think Hoda overran, but
and
nonetheless,
just noticed that Christiana's still with us.
Yes,
it's really lovely to see you again, Christiana.
Thank you.
Some of you will remember Kat introduced Christiana to us, and she came to one of our meetings.
Yeah, and since then my health has been challenging.
Bless you.
That is why you haven't seen me.
It's lovely seeing you now.
Yes. I've had a few surgeries which kept me sort of isolated a bit because of the physical mobility issues. I'm still going through it. I'm able to join online, and I'm moving about a little bit better. So hopefully
we'll keep you copied in, Christiana, so that you can join in with online things.
Yes,
lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Like Hoda said, we could see you were visually very moved by what she said. I know it doesn't get. I mean, I've heard other people talk about FGM, and it doesn't get any easier. It's just mutilation. It really is. It's horrific.
It's just unimaginable that A human being will put another human being, and where children are concerned, it just breaks you.
It does, yeah.
Let's keep working at it. And
so I think that's it, isn't it?
Yes.
Can I just mention refuge presents, because I said I was going to. I mean, it may well have come out in an email, but Barbara is collecting presents for the refuge, which can either be physical presents or they can be gifts of money. If they're physical presents, you can either take them to Barbara's or she will collect them from you, or you can take them along to the carols.
Or any of the events, actually.
Or any, or any of the oranging events. If you if you're coming to anything, then bring it with you. But if you would rather, and it's easier to contribute money rather than a present, which is equally appreciated, you can pay that into the club's bank account. So you just need to let Sarah know that you have done it, and obviously put a reference to say who you are and what it's for.
Well, in fact, you can
Actually,
let Barbara know.
Yeah, because I'll be away for 3
okay.
weeks from next week, so I'm afraid I'm
Of course, yeah, because you're going away, Sarah, aren't you? Yeah,
so let Barbara know. She's got
let
access
Barbara
to the
know
account.
that it's gone into the account.
Yeah, Barbara will be able to see that because she's does have access.
Okay.
But it'd be a good idea just to let her know.
Yeah,
that's it. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's it from everybody. So can I?
Well done,
Denise, if you've got one moment, please.
I literally one moment, because I do have another.
Yeah, it will be.